Good morning, my mush puffs. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy, Deadondave, coming at ya. And it's time for that wrestling, MMA, even sports betting talk. We actually got a lot to get to today. Because as you know, I did not cover Crown Jewel. I decided to just say fuck the entire thing. Didn't cover it. Really wasn't feeling good. It had more to do with that. And it was a slog of a show. I mean, even the stuff that was good. And by the way, let's pump the brakes on Crown Jewel being one of the worst wrestling events. Let's pump the brakes there, okay? Because aside from some things that made people crazy, you know, aside from Brock Lesnar getting the title back, which made everyone's fucking head explode, even though I don't know how you couldn't see it coming. The writing's on the wall. We're going to talk about that throughout the course of this show. And, of course, you know, the Shane McMahon fiasco. The wrestling wasn't all that bad at Crown Jewel. My biggest issue with Crown Jewel, and I think the biggest talking point for not only this show, but all shows going forward in Saudi Arabia, is going to be it just simply wasn't fun. There was no ability to have fun there because all you were thinking about was all the bullshit that's going on with the event. And the fact that we just had Evolution happen the week before, and yet the only woman that could be seen on television was motherfucking Renee Young. You know, those things take away. And then when you think about the murder and everything else, you know, it's hard to get there. But again, because the world that we live in is so corrupt and so disgusting, and there are bad events going on in worse places constantly, you know, whether or not you feel that human rights violations are happening in China or Russia, or that they're being whether or not, if you feel that or not, it happens in these countries. And I think probably the biggest thing, and one of the biggest hypocritical talking points I think that most people are forgetting, is FIFA. You know, one of the biggest outcriers against WWE recently has been John Oliver, who everyone thinks is funny, and John Oliver, like most comedians, only wants to be taken seriously when he wants to be taken seriously, and blah, 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 blah. But inadvertently, John Oliver made himself look like an asshole, and no one's really talking about it. John Oliver went very, very out of his way to damn every part of WWE being in Saudi Arabia. And I get it. Not only is there a moral reason to do so because of everything that happened with Saudi Arabia, but he hates Trump. And you have a McMahon on the Trump cabinet, so he just hones in. But what he forgot, and what a lot of people forgot, is it was, what, a year or two ago, something like that, when the World Cup was happening, amidst all of the corruption that happens within the World Cup and FIFA in general. I mean, the nonstop, endless streams of corruption. During one show in particular, he talks about FIFA and all of the buildings, that all the stadiums that gets constructed in these World Cup areas, and how they all turn into bird toilets. But then he talks about, ironically enough, something happening in the Middle East. That's right, Qatar, which is getting a World Cup, I want to say in 2020 or 2022. They've been building stadiums for it, and something ridiculous, like 100 some odd people have already died, and that was like at the time. It's basically slave labor over there, and he laments all of this shit. He talks about it. He shits on it. He goes nuts with it. And then at the very end of it, he goes, but still saying all of that, I still am a massive fan of FIFA World Cup, blah, 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 blah. Because you, John Oliver, just like most fucking sporting fans, are hypocrites. And that's okay. I do it myself. We all do. When it's something that we care about, when it's something that we want, we're willing to overlook it. But the reality is he's not a wrestling fan. So even though there are plenty of examples of terrible regions hosting huge worldwide celebrated events, even something that he has highlighted himself, somehow WWE should be held to a completely different standard, even though there are stockholders and investors and a whole lot of other things. And this is coming from a guy who has not been happy with the whole decision in Saudi Arabia. So just take that into fucking consideration. But again, all of that basically feeds into the same narrative of the show in Saudi Arabia, and any show within the next fucking few years is just not going to feel fun. There's no fun to be had in Saudi Arabia, which I think a lot of people would have told you before the WWE tried to shoehorn its way in there. But we'll get back into the show a little bit. We'll get back to Saudi Arabia in just a moment, but I want to get in some other stuff first, because a lot of stuff has happened this weekend. Pretty crazy. I want to give some love as well. Mystic, the one and only Mystic, the gorgeous one herself. Mystic made this frame today. We also have Vegas frame that we're going to be using as well. I'm just trying to figure out what frames goes where with best. I'm really liking this. I added a couple accentuations in the background, of course. And I'm liking it. I'm digging it. I think she did a very good job. So give some love to Mystic for her frame that we're using this morning on the Morning Slam. Michael K in the chat. What's going on, bud? Red Comment Man. Go Bears indeed. Jobless Zombie Morning. How you doing? I feel like a jobless zombie most of the time. Philan, how you doing? And Adrian Blom. How you guys doing? Welcome, welcome, and welcome again. Hit that fucking like button if you would be so kind, and make sure you get into my Discord if you're not already there. We're going to take calls, questions, comments, concerns, hopes, dreams, quips, quotes, likes, loves, and so much more. Get into my Discord. It's down below. Come talk to me. I want to hear your thoughts, your opinions on everything that we're talking about today and some of the things that I may have missed. Okay. So before we get into how everything is coming up Brock Lesnar right now, I want to hit on something because there's a couple of quick little things that are happening in the combat sports world that I find a little interesting. Floyd Mayweather being one. I don't know if you guys are checking out what's going on with Floyd Mayweather. Well, Floyd Mayweather just signed up for another fight in China. He's fighting on a kickboxing card against one of the up-and-coming kickboxing artists up there in China. And he's going to fight him on New Year's Eve. I want to hate this. I do. I want to hate this, but I don't. I don't hate this. I'm trying to have something. You know, I'm trying to have something to take umbrage because I don't like Floyd Mayweather. I never have liked Floyd Mayweather. I probably will never like Floyd Mayweather. He's a piece of shit. But this is fun. I'm sorry, man. Floyd Mayweather undoubtedly goes down as the best boxer of our generation. Of our generation, of the last, 25, 30 years as a whole, not really counting all the Tyson stuff and all that, Floyd Mayweather is the greatest boxer that we've seen in this generation. It's almost irrefutable. Maybe you don't like the way he fights. Maybe you don't enjoy the way that he conducts himself, and that's perfectly fucking fine. But the fact is, nobody can hit this man. For 20-some-odd years, nobody's been able to hit this man. You can't hit him. He knows angles and geometry for a stupid person, too. This is quite impressive. He knows angles and geometry in a way I've never seen a boxer not only be able to see, but react to ever in a boxing ring. I've never seen anybody do it like him, ever. So for a guy that great, albeit boring at times, that great, to go into other events or take on other people in other sports, even though Conor was in the context of a boxing match, I do believe we will see him in an MMA ring at some point. I'm digging it. I think that boxing in general has become less fun over the years. It's another thing of just it's suffering from its own, I don't know, it's something from its own image. It's just not fun. So to see him go out of his way and go fight other places and take on some of the best in the world in other places is just kind of fun. I'm just having fun with it. So it's we don't know, Adrian. We don't know if it's going to be a kickboxing or a regular boxing match. We don't know. So Bear Bear in the chat says, I have more of an issue with WWE acting like they really think that they can make a difference in a country like Saudi Arabia than anything. That's retarded. And I'll tell you, what is WWE supposed to do? You tell me from a PR standpoint, what is WWE supposed to do there, Bear Bear? We know this is a shithole and there's no chance of it ever getting any better ever, but fuck it. Shower them ducats. No, man. Look, you cannot look in WWE's heart. You can't look in anybody's fucking heart. They may honestly believe that they can do some good things. And the reality is, Renee Young did appear on the card. Now, granted, there are women who are on television in Saudi Arabia, so really no big deal. But there are things that the WWE can point to with its own talkings that we don't even know about that could potentially lead to some significant change in the future. Will it happen? Probably not. But they have to take that fucking stance. What else are they supposed to do? Everything else is just disingenuous. This might be disingenuous as well, but at least there's probably some inkling of truth, unless you just believe that WWE is an evil tyrant of a corporation, and that's all they are. Fuck Connor's Cure, fuck all of the cancer research, fuck everything, fuck it all, fuck all of it. Fuck everything they've done for wounded warriors and veterans, including myself, personally, on a personal level. Fuck all that, they gotta be evil, so why fake like there's something that can be done in Saudi Arabia? believing that your presence in a region can cause change is not necessarily disingenuous, nor is it not something that shouldn't be fucking talked about. So I have a problem with that. I think that's stupid. I really do. That's really not a very smart thing to look at. This makes me think of movie Best of the Best. Oh, hell yeah, Best of the Best. I like that. 2 was okay. 2 wasn't too bad. I think after that it got a little crazy, but Best of the Best 1 is awesome. I love that movie. Man, that's a great flick. Failure terminated in the house. On the Shane McMahon thing, I have a theory that they gave him the Saudi world title to take the bullet, so none of the wrestlers involved had to take it. You might be right on that failure, but an interesting thing that I've been reading and hearing a lot of is this is all about Shane's heel turn, and it has to do with SmackDown's very shit-tacular numbers. Holy God. Our SmackDown's numbers getting worse and worse and worse. You would think, if you listen to all the wrestling smart fans, I mean, a show that has Shinsuke Nakamura, AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, Samoa Joe, how could it possibly fail? How could, if you listen to the internet wrestling community, there's no way that possibly would be failed. But when it does, it's, WWE just can't use them right. There's no win. There's never a win. How you doing? Welcome in. Going good, man. Getting ready to go work out now. Go be up in the gym just working on your fitness. Good shit, failure. All right. So I want to get into Cormier, what happened this weekend. And, if you want to celebrate Cormier is a great MMA fighter, that's fine. Go ahead. I don't care. I'm not going to get into a huge argument over his career or anything, even though I personally have never liked Daniel Cormier. I've never found him an interesting fighter. He's very good at what he does, but he is one advantageous motherfucker. You want to talk about someone who's ducked people and found the right times to fight, you look at Daniel Cormier, all right? I'm just saying. It's always opportunistic. Even when he fights someone who's good, there's always something wonky about it. And sometimes it's not his fault, but sometimes it's totally him, and this fight is a perfect example of that, of just manipulating everything to make something look more historic and important than it really is. But the real beneficiary is Brock Lesnar. That's the beneficiary here. How the fuck Brock Lesnar has found a way to make as much money as he's going to make next year after the shit year that he had this year is incredible. I know that Paul Heyman's not really his advocate or manager or anything like that. I know that. We all know that. But whoever is a business genius. It's like Brock Lesnar, for all of his greatness, and make no mistake about it, as an athlete, Brock Lesnar is a freak of nature. At his size, his power, his speed, and especially at his age, all of it. He is a freak of nature and quite possibly one of the most, as far as we know, naturally put together greatest athletes that has ever walked the planet. That being said, he's also had a unbelievable amount of mediocrity. We're talking about a guy who couldn't get into the NFL, which is hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to do. Brock couldn't get in, although Roman Reigns did get in, but still, it's hard to do. It's hard to do. It's a hard thing to do. Granted, very, very granted. He's had injury issues that did not help him very much. He had everything that Brock did with the UFC, the big hype, going out and paying his dues, cutting his teeth a little bit on the smaller MMA circles, which nobody appears to want to do anymore, except for Dave Bautista, who decided to fight a fat plumber and barely could tap him out, and he realized, I can't do this. I'm going to go be a movie star and go back to WWE and be happy. And that's what he did. Bobby Lashley also cut his teeth on the outside, but a lot of people won't. A lot of people just want to use their name and get to where he's seeing with the Pauls on YouTube and all kinds of shit. Everybody just wants to come up, make their ducats, and leave. It doesn't matter what they do to the fight game. Brock wasn't like that. He came in, had some struggles, got tapped in his first fight, came back, had some very advantageous matchups for him that made his career look a hell of a lot stronger, including some world heavyweight title victories that made his career look a lot stronger than it actually was. And it was because it was in this weird downturn of heavyweight champions, which really has not recovered. The days of the best, the guys who were just coming in, one after another in the heavyweight division. Those days are fucking over, man. Cain Velasquez, and they were kind of last bastions, and all of those guys get hurt. They got hurt constantly, even Junior Dos Santos, all kinds of guys. They had injury issues, or they were never consistent enough. I think it had more to do with just the level of talent in the heavyweight division at the time not being where it was, especially not being where a lot of people thought it was at the time, which allowed for a lot of the things to happen within the heavyweight division. Now, you fast forward to Daniel Cormier, who kind of bounces between divisions because he's a fat shit and all that type of stuff. I've never been a fan of his. And he's a guy who has bounced around and has gotten fights at very opportunistic times. He's had a fantastic record. You know, he's only lost to John Jones, and he really even more than once to him. But there's always something with John Jones, and it always happens with Daniel Cormier, and it always causes just ridiculous things. So through the course of everything that Daniel Cormier has done and being the one consistent fighter that the UFC has been able to put their chips on for a while now, since, you know, the Conor craziness, you know, Ronda leaving, Brock not being in the UFC, Daniel Cormier has become one of their blue chippers. Because nobody cared about fucking Demetrius Johnson down there in the light, and nobody gave a shit. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. That's why this trade to one for Ben Arskin, nobody cares. Nobody wants to see it. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. So you have all these things that happen, and throughout the course of all of that, Cormier once again steps up, takes a title fight against somebody that nobody would be able to mention right now. Not even a little. No one's even going to be able to remember that fucking guy's name right now. I'm blanking already, and the fight just happened Saturday. And he does what he does. He out-wrestles a fighter, you know, a striker, and he gets the victory. It's what he does, and he becomes heavyweight champion. Yay! Or he defended the heavyweight title. Yay! Whatever. Who gives a fuck, right? All of this, including this weekend's Saudi Arabia thing, all has to do with something a lot bigger, and we're not fucking stupid. We all know what's happening. We know that Brock Lesnar got this title back, which he may have gotten regardless if Roman Reigns unfortunately came down with his reoccurring leukemia again or not. He may have still done this. He may have still got the title back, because they started a storyline in the UFC months ago with one of the worst call-outs in history. Oh, Brock Lesnar just happens to be in here? Daniel Cormier is going to give a weird speech? What's going on? Why is he announcing Brock? Why did Brock push him? Oh, this is awkward. This is weird. Why doesn't Brock have the WWE Championship? It's all so weird. It's so bizarre. But it got people talking, because there's nothing else really going on in the UFC that anybody gives too much of a shit about, especially with Conor losing now to Khabib and all that crazy shit. Habib and all that crazy shit that happened in that situation. There's really not a whole hell of a lot going on. You know, John Jones is getting ready to come back, which is great. It's going to be good for the UFC if he could stay healthy, if he can stay clean, if he can go back on a dominant form. He's still young enough to be able to go 4 or 5 years of domination and cement that legacy of everything that John Jones is capable of doing. Because John Jones very well might be the greatest MMA fighter to ever live. He very well might be. Him, Anderson Silva, and I don't know how many more you can put in that conversation. And even Anderson Silva has some question marks about him. But John Jones, aside from his own stupidity, really doesn't have any. You know, that's just the reality of the life of John Jones. He just perpetually trips over his own feet. It's what he does. It's insanity. What are you going to do with that? You're just going to move on and live your life the best you can. That's all you can do. But he's coming back, which is great for UFC. But they're not banking on John Jones and Cormier 3, which would make a lot of sense right now for a lot of people. I think most people would be happy with that fight. They'd want to see that fight. Cormier doesn't want to see that fight because he can't beat Jones, and he will go out on a loss. So what's the next best thing you can do? If you can get a guy like Brock Lesnar, with everything that he's had going on, if you can get him back into the WWE title picture, which was easier to do because of Roman Reigns' illness, you get him back in there, you have him inexplicably squash Braun Strowman, which is the only thing I don't agree with in that match, to be completely honest, because we can't add Drew McIntyre, which is what I would have done. Added Drew McIntyre, you have Drew win the title, but that doesn't work for what WWE wants to do. So Braun gets squashed by Brock, which is just bizarre. But it's all to make Brock look more legitimate. in a fake sport so he can look tougher in a real sport. Very confusing logic. And Daniel Cormier does not waste any time after he defends his heavyweight title that in the UFC than to make sure to make reference to that WWE championship. Because Cormier is a wrestling fan. Cormier is, in fact, in talks with WWE and others I'm hearing to become a broadcaster or potentially even perform within the WWE. Apparently he has a very good relationship. The one thing that we really haven't seen on UFC television has been Brock's or any WWE World Championship appeal. He's going to bring that in on this next shit. We're going to see the WWE Championship on the same table, shoulder to shoulder with a MMA World Championship. What kind of craziness is this? It's not all that crazy. It's not all that crazy. And for everybody who wants to start shitting on the UFC and WWE for doing this, this was fucking commonplace in boxing back in the day when wrestling still had kayfabe. 50s, 60s, 70s, people considered the World Wrestling Champion of the world as a legitimate badass. It was commonplace for cross promotion to happen in some circles. News articles, photo ops, things of that nature. It would happen quite frequently. In fact, it was depicted very, very well in a movie. Granted, a movie, but still a movie that depicts some things, especially with a lot of the 80s glitz and glamour, and really gave us a look into the 90s glitz and glamour of cross-promotion and boxing and gimmicks, where Hulk Hogan himself would be in a Rocky movie, Rocky 3, boxer versus wrestler. It's something that even Muhammad Ali has done. A lot of people have done it. It's not all that crazy. It's not all that insane. It's not something that is so far-fetched. However, the UFC is a little bit different than regular boxing, because the UFC for a long time tried to shed a stigma of being sports entertainment. And they also had to shed the stigma of being human cockfighting. The UFC, since its inception, has always fought for its own special place of the puzzle. What is it? Is it the same as boxing? Well, no, not really, because they've really gone out of their way to try to make it more reality-based with a lot of the Ultimate Fighter stuff, which was a huge reason for UFC's success, by the way. It's really what got them to that next level, was the Ultimate Fighter, and giving people storylines to kind of build with. And not just regular, you got the title, I want the title type of storyline that we'll see in boxing, and then they'll take it to personal levels to sell the fight, because that's the fight game. That's what you do. Instead, they've taken it and they've allowed these guys, many of which grew up as wrestling fans. This is why we have the Conor McGregor, even the Daniel Cormier situation, and others that are these incredible talkers that cut wrestling-style promos, and you'll hear them as other boxers in the past. You'll hear them in fights like you did in the Khabib fight with Conor, where Khabib's taken everything that Conor has said over the past few months seriously, and let's talk now, and try to be tough guy with Conor and everything. And Conor's like, it's all fucking business, which most people understand. You think Mike Tyson really wanted to eat Lennox Lewis's kids? Well, Mike Tyson might have, because he's Mike fucking Tyson, but probably not. If you've listened to Mike Tyson now and any of the things that he's done on his incredibly successful spoken word tours, he's a smart dude. Mike Tyson's not an idiot, man. Mike Tyson had some really fucking hard shit growing up, but he became very successful, but he understands how to sell a fight. Conor's the same way. Daniel Cormier's the same way. Brock's the same way. And Brock being an actual wrestler, this all makes a lot of sense and has set up a perfect matchup of interpromotional going to the next fucking level. Having a world title, having any type of world championships coming in the same scope as one another is good for both brands, unless you're trying to fight away from what your identity is, which the UFC constantly does. The UFC sets shit up all the time. All the fucking time. That thing that happened in Brooklyn was one of the most set up, convoluted things I've seen in a long time. Do I believe it got out of hand? Yeah, it's called a half shoot. All right, it's called a half work. It's where you come up with a set of circumstances that sometimes just goes off the fucking rails. More than likely. Oh, thank you very much. 20 bucks from Ricochet. Good morning,
my dude.
Thank you very much for that. And we'll go ahead and we'll get a little wig action going with that wonderful stuff. Thank you so much, Ricochet. We'll do a beer chug before we get out of here. I don't give a fuck about doing a beer chug early, baby. No, we'll do a beer chug. But we've seen this with other things in the past, like where a real life announcer has been told to do something and he got a little too chirpy with a wrestler and he gets slapped the fuck out of. These type of things happen. It's not all that uncommon in the sporting world. And by the way, thank you again, Ricochet. If I did not say thank you enough, I'll give you a beer check. Thank you so much. I much appreciate that. But that's what we see. And I think that's what we saw in Brooklyn. And UFC constantly does that, where it's fighting against itself. The biggest buys that it's ever had has either been Ronda Rousey or Brock Lesnar. You know, and that's where it goes with. So to have someone like Conor who does the exact same thing, but naturally was a godsend for WWE. But once again, they find themselves struggling against their own nature, which is going to be the biggest problem with this fight. If you've been watching Cormier, and more importantly, Brock Lesnar, an MMA match, you can't really honestly sit here and say that this is the best the heavyweight division can come up with. A 39-year-old world-class wrestler in Daniel Cormier. World-class wrestler. I do not want to downplay that for a fucking second. Daniel Cormier is a world-class Olympic caliber wrestler. At least he was. There was no question about that. But he doesn't have much else, and he's an advantageous fighter. He fights people on his terms when it's best. He wants to win, and part of me respects that. Part of me also doesn't because of what the UFC is supposed to be and all that type of stuff. And you look at Brock Lesnar, a guy with not a fantastic MMA career, with suspensions because of drug use. He's over the Mount 40. You know, he's not fought in a while. You can't really get too excited for this match inside the ring, aside from all of the carnival, aside from all the hype. And this is why this is a perfect cross-promotion event, because there's really nothing else to this fight. There's not much grandeur here as far as a combat. So it's going to go quick. One way or another, Cormier-Lesnar is ending in 2 rounds. One way or another, either Brock's able to finish Cormier, catch him early because he's a good enough wrestler to be able to make Cormier respect his wrestling and hopefully be able to catch him standing up and catch him with a big right hand or something like that. Or Cormier's going to fucking smother him. He's going to lay his big fat body on Brock, and Brock's not going to be able to deal with the world-class wrestling. That's it. That's how this fight's going to go. And with any luck for Cormier, every time Brock has to get back up, he's going to be susceptible to a nice stiff punch right in the suck hole and get knocked out. That's how this fight's going to go. There's going to be nothing spectacular about it as far as a fight goes, but it's going to be built up that way. And that's why the title of this show is very simply, Everything is Coming Up Lesnar. Because after the year that Brock Lesnar put up in professional wrestling, with hardly defending the title at all, while still becoming the longest reigning modern day WWE champ, blah, 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 which I'm thinking and hoping that they're going to eventually give that to AJ Styles, looking very likely for that. But to do all of that, you know, put the world title and really Monday Night Raw in a lurch because of it, and not make Roman Reigns' job any easier. All of these things, getting paid the amount he is, all of the shakeups and stuff like that, all kinds of shit like that, right? To have that 2018, to be that's your 2018 and arguably 2017, and be able to somehow parlay this into a bigger financial year in 2019 is unbelievable. Because if you don't see how this is going, you ain't paying attention. The only thing I can't explain is the Braun Strowman crushing. I don't understand the Braun Strowman squash, because why sacrifice Braun of all people? Do an angle, get Braun out of that match, let Brock squash someone else. But to squash Braun after everything that he's done the last few months to reestablish value, now he's finally getting away from Dolph and McIntyre. McIntyre and Braun seem to be a very fun feud. There's so much more that you can do there. Why squash him just so Brock can look bigger going into a match with Survivor Series with AJ Styles, which a lot of people are excited about, and maybe you should be. Maybe you should. But why do you think AJ is going to win this match? He didn't win last time that he fought Brock. I don't see him winning this match. Brock can't lose. Brock can't lose that title. I know this is not for the title, but he can't really have anything that hurts his image going forward all the way to wrestle. You think he's been booked like Superman up to this point? Oh, Wait until you see what they do going up until fucking the UFC fight in March. Which, funnily enough, isn't this weird how things just kind of work out perfectly? Because if this works out the way that both UFC, make no mistake, UFC wants it to work out this way too, and WWE, think about this. Brock Lesnar takes on AJ Styles at the end of November for Survivor Series. He then has some marquee matchup at Royal Rumble against whoever. Doesn't matter. Seth Rollins, it could be against a returning guy. Maybe somebody, Bobby Lashley maybe finally happens. Makes a lot of sense. Royal Rumble, we have a brand new #1 contender in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's the Royal Rumble winner or it's somebody else, we're going to have a brand new challenger to build hype going into WrestleMania, where I guarantee you Brock Lesnar will still have that title. Why? Because in that same time, if it goes the way UFC and WWE wants to, WWE is going to be able to promote the WWE Universal Championship on UFC television, talk shows, in the octagon, press conferences. You're going to see that title front and fucking center. And then he beats, which I do believe is UFC and WWE's best interest, he beats Daniel Cormier, becomes the World Heavyweight Champion once again in the UFC, and then is able to walk around with both of those belts on his shoulders going into WrestleMania. Fuck. Then all the WWE press conferences will have that UFC championship on his fucking shoulder. UFC and Dana White will tell you that they care about that. They don't. They don't, because they are professional wrestling. They do set stuff up like professional wrestling. They show it all the time. It's unbelievable how this is set up and worked out to really have the next 6 months of WWE set up perfectly for them. We may not like it. We're going to rage. We're going to get angry. We're going to do all the things we owe. Cancel the network and all those type of things. But here's the thing. WWE navigated the hardest part that it had, which was the whole situation with Saudi Arabia. It wasn't that big of a deal, turns out. You know, not a lot of people cared as much as they said they did. A lot of people still watched the event. Granted, everybody bitched about the event, but as far as worst case scenario goes, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad for WWE. And depending on how everything goes on with the investigation, if Trump ends up, really no matter what happens, if Trump ends up actually levying sanctions against Saudi Arabia, which I highly fucking doubt that's going to happen, but if they do, this becomes a win-win for WWE in other ways. If sanctions happen, if they end up replacing the Crown Prince, whatever the case may be, WWE can look and say it's our presence that is partly to fucking help with this. Whether it's true or not is irrelevant. PR-wise, it will work going forward, more than likely. So not a big deal there. So it's just about getting through and navigating through it. And they also have the benefit and the detriment of Mr. Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns going out hurts WWE in a lot of ways, but it also helps them. To have an emotional thing like that, to pivot a year at this point is a big thing. You know, we're going to be able to follow Roman's fight. Whenever Roman wants to return to television to give an update, it's going to do huge numbers. This is a big thing for WWE, and let's not forget that. And not to be morbid or gross or anything like that, if Roman Reigns fucking dies during this, WWE just hits a fucking home run. I hate to say it like that, but Jesus Christ, the legend of Roman Reigns will grow over fucking night. It will grow overnight, and there's so many storyline things they'll be able to do because of it. And don't say, Dave, you're being gross, because wrestling shouldn't be about exploiting when people die. Yeah, tell that to Chris Benoit, tell that to fucking Eddie Guerrero, tell that to even Ultimate Warrior. Tell that to all the... No. That's exactly what wrestling is. You exploit whatever you can to make the money. That's what wrestling is. We don't have to like it. It's just a reality. Let's go into the chat for a moment, because I do want to see what some of you guys are saying in there. Also, I want to take calls on Discord. Go ahead and get in there, baby, and come talk to me. Talk to me. I see Bear in there right now getting the waiting call. I'm going to open up my zone of copious thoughts, and we'll start taking calls in just a moment. But I want to get to the chat and talk about a few things. Let's see here. Everyone reading this, like the stream right now. Free content, damn it. Thank you, Robbie J. Hit that like button. Smash it. Drop an elbow. In fact, if you have a phone or a tablet, kiss it. Kiss it. I ain't got to tell anybody. You know you want to kiss that big thumb up that on Dave's. You know you do. Go do it. Just give it a little tappy tap. Don't go any farther than that, because then, you don't want to slip and fall and have sex with a piece of electronics. Or maybe you do. I'm not one to judge. Point is, get the likes up and do whatever any way that you want. Super Rising Store. I'm still asking myself if the entirety of Crown Jewel is booked by the Prince. Brock winning the title back, Shane becoming the best in the world. It was a show for the Prince only. I honestly don't think those two decisions had anything to do with the Prince, Flo. If I'm being 100% honest there, I think Shane was done for inexplicable reasons that I don't think really would help the show for the Saudi audience. It really had to do with SmackDown's waning numbers and the fact they needed something from... Think about how desperate they must have felt like they need a big heel presence or something to change dramatically. That they took arguably one of the best heels in the entire company in The Miz and said, you're not heely enough. You winning this event is not going to get enough of a reaction. It needs to be Shane. The whole reasoning there was to piss people off, and Lord, it fucking worked. So, I don't know. And Brock winning, that goes way beyond the Saudi Prince. This is a business deal between UFC and WWE. Cormier is an actual wrestler. Yes, he was. Very, very true. He was world class, but he's also 40 now. Brock spoiled wrestling for me. I hate when people say, why? Why? It's no different than anything else, Adrian. No difference than anything else. Bear Bonner versus Griffin fight when the Ultimate Fighter finale is still one of the greatest fights of all time. I agree. Fantastic fight. Robbie J. UFC is great. Can't believe it's so mainstream when UFC was considered taboo. Remember the days when WWE was considered taboo. That's why they're so parallels. They're such parallels to one another, because they're in the same boat. They always have been. WWE was never mainstream. For the longest time, it was spoken in hushed tones. Nobody really knew if it was real, if it was fake. People were dicks in real life, if they were dicks on camera. You know what I mean? It was a completely different environment altogether. So it's very similar in a lot of ways. So it's not a big shock that they both reached the level that they have. Robbie J, I was looking into it, and Connor did take it too far. He got political. I was close to putting Khabib in actual danger, but no, I don't buy that for a second. I don't buy it for a second. I don't think that he took it too far. I think in a fight game, when you have people talking about, eating each other's children, I don't buy it. He had to pay for it by getting his ass beat by a guy who just wants none of that shit. Had Khabib just said, you took it political and I didn't like that, but he didn't. He goes as far as saying, trash talk does not belong in fight game. What the fuck ever. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Shut up, Khabib, please. I'm going to pronounce the K. I don't care. But no, I don't buy that he put him in actual danger or anything like that. I don't. Because Khabib goes back and kisses the ring. He's fine. He's totally fine. I do like that he was putting them in danger. Get it? Putting them. Get it? Come on, that's funny. Leaving Shane only won the cup to set up Survivor Series. Kurt is coming back as Raj GM and is fighting Shane at next pay-per-view. It's been predetermined. I think there's a very good likelihood of that happening, but they kind of already shot that bullet, didn't they? They had Shane and Kurt already do something. Wasn't it like last Survivor Series when that happened, where they had them do something together? So I see them maybe leading a team again, but a one-on-one matchup, while you're probably right, doesn't do a lot for me. Doesn't make me go, I don't really care. Kurt looked very good, I thought, on Saturday or Friday morning. I think he looked very good. Shane looked like his father. It is not by accident that Shane wore that black fucking a wife beater, the shirt that he was wearing. That looks strikingly similar to Vince's Muscle and Fitness cover. Shane also looked more jacked, didn't he? I'm not saying. I'm just saying. There was a reason for that happening the way that it did. It's AJ Dave Styles. Yes, we love in the hair. That's because Ricochet with a big donation. We're about to do a beer chug for Ricochet as well. Hopefully you're still around, buddy, so you see your beer chug. Yeah, it's a little bit early, but fuck it. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? It doesn't matter. We're good. And chug this beer for that $20 donation. $10 to the channel. If you want, I'll go ahead and jug a beer for you guys, because I love yo faces and I appreciate you guys continuing to support the channel. Failure Tournament. You think they'll let Brock walk out to UFC with the WWE Championship? Yeah, I do. I do, Failure. And here's the main reasoning why I believe that is because Cormier's already announced it. Cormier said specifically already, bring that WWE Universal Championship. He was specific about it, too. He didn't say WWE title like most people would have said. No, he said bring that Universal Championship. He knew specifically exactly what title he was talking about. He knew what he wanted, and it was probably because it's already been agreed upon by UFC and WWE. And it's something that hasn't happened before with these two companies. So to me, it makes all the sense in the world for this to happen. All of the sense it makes in the world. It's double cross promotion at arguably the busiest time for not only wrestling, but going into the busiest time of the year for fighting. You're hitting those April, May, June months where you really want to push to the summer. So Brock Lesnar winning in March, then going on defending or losing the title, whatever. They probably won't have him lose at WrestleMania because of all of this. This storyline definitely has more legs beyond just WrestleMania. And you have him take on Jon Jones in the summer in UFC in the heavyweight division. I mean, it's perfect. And it sets up even more perfect for UFC because if they do decide to go that route, which I do believe Jon Jones' return to UFC is going to be at heavyweight. Again, maybe I'm just being crazy-minded here, but it seems to work out quite well for me in my head. So he takes on Brock Lesnar after Brock beats Cormier. Thank you, Molested Mickey, for the subscription. I appreciate that. I don't know why that made me laugh. It just did. So you take all of that happening. You have Brock beat Cormier, take the title, lose it to Jon Jones, and then, shocker, by the end of the year, Cormier wants to fight again. And then you have a perfectly built-in matchup for Jon Jones, Cormier for the final fucking time. It writes itself. If they don't go with that, they're just making a mistake, in my opinion, but we'll see. Let's see. Rip Roman. Yeah, well, hopefully not. Flo. Vince doesn't even care that ratings go down and all that, so how much money he got from Saudi Arabia, other deals, it doesn't even concern him how bad Raw is right now. Well, here's the thing. There's some truth to that, and I think there's also some fallacy to that. The way that Vince has reacted to certain things shows he still cares about performance. Ratings don't matter like they once did. But what does still matter and what has always mattered and where the numbers you should be looking at is the tours. It's one of the reasons why Raw and SmackDown both do the pay-per-views every now and then. Because now they do them together and not separate anymore. Because now they don't have to worry about A and B tours in the same way they used to. You see, what they had to do while Raw and SmackDown are separate entities is literally separate it into A and B show tours, where it's just Raw guys and SmackDown guys. And sometimes they would even borrow from the SmackDown to bolster the Raw, because that was the bigger draw for it. But now they don't have to do that, because now the brands have recrossed over and all that, especially with the time of year that it is. Now you can have whatever talent you want on both tours, because they always have two tours running consecutively. Remember that. That's always important to keep in mind. So it's those numbers of those tours. And from everything that I've seen, the tours that have been headlined by Brian, the tours that have been headlined by AJ, Shin, and such, they're not drawing well in live attendance, which is what they care about. The Raw ones have still done pretty well, especially when Roman was still there to hold down the line. So they're not too concerned when it comes to that. And I don't believe that Vince doesn't care. You know, especially with all the money that they have made over the last year, not just from Saudi Arabia. Remember, that Saudi Arabia deal had nothing to do with that influx of fucking money that they saw in the stock market. It had to do with the deals that they orchestrated with not only the USA Network to keep Raw there, but the bigger deal being the Fox Network for SmackDown, which all once again leads into the same train of thought of them building as much juice for the SmackDown brand. And that's why I think all of the dual branding is going to completely go away very, very soon, because they want to get as many of those big name top draw stars that they can from Raw onto SmackDown, where it is going to be on network television, which is going to be huge. Because it's not like UPN when they were on fucking network television before. They're going to be on real network television, one of the top fours, you know, they're one of the big ones. This isn't like going to hockey. This is one of the big sports, you know. This is Fox. This could be huge for WWE. Huge. The numbers can go. That's why their stock hit $100. It's why they got $1 billion from USA and fucking Fox combined. And it really has to do with the fact that while we may not always be happy with a lot, we're not supposed to be happy anymore. God damn it, I remember growing up and my dad and my uncles were like, wrestling just ain't what it used to be. You know, it was so much better in my day. We had it so much better with the larger-than-life person. And now you guys have all this attitude in it and, you know, suck this and eat that and too sweet. And we don't need all that shit. We had the exact same cultural and, more importantly, generational divide back then that we do now. It's a young man's game. It's a young man's game, and if you overthink wrestling too much, you're doomed to hate it. And there's nothing you can do about it. You're just going to. So, our SmackDown's rating even worse than Raw's. Oh, yeah. It's pretty bad for all-time lows. How Raw is a terrible show, SmackDown is okay. I don't know if I agree with that all the time. Raw's been actually a lot better lately in a lot of ways. Is it exciting every week? No, but, I mean, it just kind of is what it is. But God, Shade winning disappointed me more than angered me. They made a farce out of the tournament, but that could have been great if they booked it better, in my opinion. I thought the matches for that event were fine up until the final. The final was a problem, but I don't think it's a detrimental problem, mainly because it was a made-up, stupid tournament that they've already had with a better name in the past in King of the Ring. So I don't care about that tournament anyway. To me, you can't book a tournament with 6 weeks of build and call it the best in the World Cup. Fuck all that. That meant nothing to me anyway. And in fact, I kind of like they use it as a tool to get someone super heely. I kind of, you know what? Fuck it. At least it served a purpose. Because it wouldn't have served the purpose had Miz won or even Dolph Ziggler won. Nobody cared. But now people are talking about this winner in Shane McMahon for good, bad, or indifferent. And it could lead to something that ends up helping. So I don't know. Baby, Raw is a more recognizable name and it has the history behind it. No matter how bad it is, most of the time, it will have higher ratings than SmackDown. Very true. But it has come close a couple of times in the last couple of years with SmackDown getting really close to knocking those numbers off on Raw. Yeah, Shane was swole. He really was. He looks like Vince. He does. Mikado and Adrian. He really does. Dalton Clark, Brock as champ is a bad move. It hurt the ratings and dragged the show down without the belt there. No, you're wrong on that. It's only going to help the WWE. It's going to piss off the Smarks, but the reality is the numbers are good with Brock as champion. It gives a mystique to old-timey type wrestling where the belt wouldn't be as visible. He takes it to a little bit of extreme, but there is a good possibility that Brock is going to be a lot more visible this time because he's going to be cross-promoting with WWE and UFC. So no, Brock as champion doesn't hurt WWE numbers at all. It really doesn't. You think Brock can win versus Jones? I think no, he never could beat Brock. It's not about... MMA isn't about good fights anymore, at least in UFC. It's not even about that. It's not about putting on the best fights. It's about putting on the biggest marquee super fights they possibly can. Brock Lesnar is going to get fucking killed by John Jones. Massacred, destroyed, obliterated. He's going to have his knees blown out by John Jones. Does not matter. It's there to serve a purpose, to get to that next match, to get to that, to crown John Jones unequivocally. That's what this is about. John Jones beats Brock Lesnar, wins the World Heavyweight Championship. Daniel Cormier gets the bug up his ass to come out of retirement. Brock was never the real champion anyway, blah, blah, blah. Daniel Cormier will do some of his whining that he always fucking does. Get his match with John Jones. John Jones destroys Cormier again, and he is unmatched. He is the man of the UFC. Plain and simple. There is no more discussing after that. So that's what I think the plan is. You think Bullet Club will go to WWE? They will bury Cody again. I want to make this really clear. I'm glad you asked that question. The Bullet Club with Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega. They're never going to WWE. There's no reason for them to go to WWE. It's ridiculous for them to go to WWE because, yes, they will be buried. They will not be what they are on the main on the independent scene, whatever you want to call it, because they're completely different fucking worlds, and they're not going to get that over anyway. So no, why would they go there when they can continue to call their own shots on the independents, get people to suck their dicks, make them look like fucking gods and all? No, why would they go to WWE? Makes no sense. No, I think it's a major mistake. And the stock's back down to 75, I think. Yeah, you're right. It did because of the Saudi Arabia situation. But it also did go down into the low 60s, and it's starting to go back up into the high 70s once again. So and a lot of people are thinking that it's going to hit that 100 mark before the end of the year once again. So how much did Saudi Arabia really hurt anyway? You know, it sucks. Relapse. I like the SmackDown roster. I hate the Miz injury. Yeah, it's one of the... Miz is terrible, and I'm going to go back to this because I've always, you know, held true that the Miz is the worst ever in so many ways. Even though I do like Miz at times, it's very weird. But God, what a terrible selling of that totally legitimate knee injury. I've never been hurt. Oh, it was so ridiculous. God, couldn't they just do a beatdown angle? Did they really have to make the Miz go out and act? It's not his strong suit. Let's drink a beer. Let's drink a beer. You guys ready for a beer chug early in the morning? Look at that shit. Sorry, the green screen is fucking crossing it all out, but full beer. Here we go. $75 glass as well. Here we go. Whew. Good morning. Good Monday, motherfuckers. Yeah, there we go. I'm a fucking savage, bitch. And I'll also open up the Twitch stream with a beer chug as well to say thank you. Let's see here. Believe it or not, I'm watching the stream on a Samsung Galaxy S3. Look at you, pimp. I love it. I want King of the Ring back. So do I, Adrian. So do I. Dalton. Crown Jewel was for money, not for the story. All fucking wrestling, boxing, and the shit, it's all for the fucking money. It's all for money. It's all for money. Cretins. It's all for money. Love the Deuce says Quiet Cody. Thank you very much. It's totally my real hair. It's natural. Totally natural. Baby, I stopped caring that much about UFC when Forrest Griffin retired. He was the last guy I really cared about. Fair enough. GunCannon, the Bullet Club, not anymore. They're just called the Elite. Yep. Super Rising Storm. Kenny said he might go to WWE one day. That's far in the future. Yeah, Kenny might go. Kenny makes a lot of sense because Kenny sees what happened with AJ and stuff, you know? Kenny could do what he wants for the next 5-6 years and go in the WWE at 38, 39 and make bank, make mad ducats. So that's what I'm expecting out of him. Cody's bitter, and Cody thinks he's his old man, and he'll never go back to WWE. He hates WWE. I believe that he does. I do. A GunCannon. That's not Bully Club anymore. They're called the Elite. Yeah. How about that? Adrian Blum. I still remember Stone Cold beating Jake the Snake Roberts to become Sting Ring. You do your Bible thumping. You say your prayers. You talk about John 3:16. Austin 3:16 mean I just whipped your ass. Come to Broken Skull Ranch, you stupid bastard. Stomp a mud hole in your ass. Drink 1 beer. 2 beers. 3 beers. What? Love it. All right. Dalton, so how do you think they tie the Brock UFC thing over to WWE storyline? They already have. They already have when he was just happened to be there when Daniel Cormier won the heavyweight championship. He wasn't just there for no reason. He didn't get the most awkward introduction by Daniel Cormier in the history of fucking MMA for no reason. And Daniel Cormier said immediately after he won on Saturday night that Brock better bring that pretty WWE Universal Championship with him. So they've already set it up. It's already done. Bear. I think the Bucks could go over as an exciting tag team in WWE, and I think Kenny could too. The Bucks won't get over in WWE if they go for a couple of reasons. One, hate to say this. I know. Calm down. Calm down. Young Bucks suck. They're not very good. I know. It's hard. I understand that this truth that is wafting in on you right now is too much for you to bear. I get it. It's hard, but it's true. They're not that fucking good. 2, WWE does not give a fuck about tag team wrestling, and neither one of them is good enough to go into a singles area like the Hardys were. They're too small. They're not good enough. They're just not. They're not that. Everything they've done has been done by a million other fucking people, and in my opinion, done better. Just my opinion. So no, I don't think they would do very well. Kenny has got a chance. Kenny's got a chance if he can bring it down a little bit. Kenny's got a chance. Relapse. Anyone else realize that the guys in the front row at Crown Jewel not paying a bit of fucking attention? Why would they? They're royalty. They don't give a fuck. Dave would go out with me. Sure, I would, Haidar. Yeah, absolutely. If you're paying, I'm drinking. Sounds good. C-Man still love the Stone Cold impression. Thanks a lot, you dumb, stupid son of a bitch. You come down to Broken Skull Ranch and I'll stick a pine cone up your ass, you stupid seaman. What does that even mean anymore, you stupid jackass? You come in here and you talk about your sea or your man. Pick one, you stupid bitch. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. I went a little crazy. Razor Roberts, a clean John Jones ain't beating DC at heavyweight. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. I'm sorry. Cormier is not very good. Cormier is advantageous. Look at all of his fights. Even the big names that he's fought, he fought him at the absolute right time. With maybe even Gustafsson. Even Gustafsson. I don't know, man. John Jones is one of the most talented, clean or not, and I honestly don't even believe he was juicing. I think he's got a booger sugar problem. I think it's a big issue with his, and he has taken other things to try to hide that, and it's causing him to pop hot for steroid stuff. That's what I believe. John Jones is one of the most gifted MMA combat sports guys that's ever walked this planet. He is going to crush DC when they fight again. Jones is going to be, what, 32? At most 33, something like that. Cormier will be well over the 40 line. Nah, he's getting fucked up. Sorry. Getting fucked up. Brock won't face John Jones either, as Jones don't want to move up to heavyweight. I think he's returning as a heavyweight. I think he's taking on Gustafsson at heavyweight. I believe. Maybe. I think. And Jones has talked many times about wanting to go up to heavyweight, so I'm pretty sure he is going to go up to heavyweight. Dalton Clark, the Young Bucks are overhyped, and Revival's best tag team. Revival is one of the best tag teams of all time. So do you think UFC is scripted like WWE? I mean, inside the octagon? No, although I do think that there might have been times where it certainly could be questioned. With some of the referee decisions and stuff, it's always going, but that's all combat sports. I don't think that their fights are predetermined. No, I do not believe that. I want to see Tanahashi in WWE. I think a lot of people do, you know. Dalton, so you think Brock holds it to WrestleMania 35 or drops it at Royal Rumble? He's going to hold it through WrestleMania. I think he'll win and retain at WrestleMania. I think he's going to hold this title a long time once again, and everyone's going to be pissed off. Bear, do you think it's too late for Christopher Daniels to have a small run in WWE, or remain as one of the greatest to never have a run there? What's the point? Christopher Daniels is starting to look, he's starting to show his age in the ring. I've noticed it for a while, but I really noticed against Stephen Amell. Really came out to me against Stephen Amell. And I know that's not very fair to him, but whatever. I'm starting to really notice the age. No, there's no money there for WWE or Christopher Daniels, to be completely honest. So, no, I don't see him going to WWE. It would be unlikely. Jones can't stay clean. He's a dirty cheat. I don't agree. I think that he's had some issues, but I wouldn't call him a cheat. I can't get there. Well, the name C is already taken by another loudmouth, and man isn't very creative. No, it's just an adjective. You're right. It's light heavyweight. Well, he'll go up to heavyweight. Trust me. He'll go up to heavyweight after. Because it makes sense for Cormier if they want to do heavyweight with Cormier, which he's going to be out of shape. He's probably going to want to get back in heavyweight when he does show up. And John Jones has talked about quite frequently that he wants to go up to heavyweight, so I could see that happening. And he's already challenged. He's already challenged Brock Lesnar to a fight, and Brock ain't coming down to light heavyweight. I think that Conor Khabib conflict was staged by Dana, at least outside the ring. Oh, God, the Brooklyn thing abso-fucking-lutely was. Oh, there's no question. It wasn't supposed to go as far as it did, but yeah, absolutely it was. Just like the Cormier-Brock Lesnar thing was. There's no question about that. The DX versus Brothers of Destruction match was scary for the botches. I think it needed to stop before someone gets really hurt. The botches weren't all that bad. It had more to do with the fact that Triple H got hurt early in the fight. I didn't find it all that bad, but I'm a Shawn Michaels mark, so I'm going to overlook a lot of things. I knew I was watching 4 50-year-olds. It didn't, I wasn't looking for the world or the time to be fucking turned back. Do you think ECW has any chance back, or House of Hardcore CW? No. There's really not much of a market for that anymore. The ultra-violence has gone the way of the dodo. Sam McCallum is doing his very best to try to keep it alive, but I don't understand why you would want to, and why any major promotion would want to make a push for it when everyone's getting sued for CTE and other stuff. Wrestling's caught it a little bit, but they're going to catch it a hell of a lot more in the next 10 years or so. But everybody only fucking goes and sues WWE. There's guys who had 6 matches in WWE over 20. I'm not making this up. There are people who were in that lawsuit, which I think has been dismissed, against WWE, that had 6 matches in the WWE in a 25-year career, but somehow only sued WWE. I find that amazing to me. It's unbelievable. DC is coming to WWE after UFC to do commentary. That's the rumors going on, but that makes it even more logical for him to go back to UFC and take on Jon Jones after Jon Jones beats Brock Lesnar. And whether they do that fight at light heavyweight or heavyweight, it doesn't really matter, because Brock has a chance to become a 2-time champion if Brock was somehow able to make the light heavyweight, which there's no chance of him getting 205. No chance of that happening. So that would never happen anyway. So if Jon Jones only going up to UFC or going up to heavyweight is the only thing that makes sense, because they're going to want to get back to Cormier. And Cormier being in WWE, rooting on Brock, going against Jon Jones, whatever the case may be, that him stepping out from back behind the booth. I'm seeing long-term things here that make a lot of sense to me, and they can figure out the division stuff later on. That ain't that big of a deal. Brock has to pass USADA first. Oh, he will. I think he's already well on the way to doing that. He could fail again because he's Brock, and I do believe he has issues with it as well. But I'm pretty sure he's going to pass. I mean, it would be quite shocking. But then again, so was Jon Jones when he failed. So is Chris Jericho going to Impact? I think he is, but I don't know if he will due to Vince. I know that was the plan. I think it's getting less likely with a couple of factors. One, New Japan having the issues it's having with management right now, and TNA collapsing once again. Impact, the wheels, if you're not paying attention to Impact Wrestling right now, the wheels have come off that fucking organization. The fact that they're barely getting 100,000 people a week to watch that fucking show, it's getting embarrassing right now. So I think there was a possibility, but now it's becoming less likely. But with Jericho, you just never know. Relapse. Do you see any storylines start to form at Crown Jewel? Personally, I don't, but my friends disagree. Shane being the biggest one coming out of it. I don't see anything else because it was a tournament-driven story, basically. Joe and AJ was just thrown in. That was a do-nothing match. It really didn't have any ramifications. Brock completely squashed Braun, so I don't see that being the starting of a storyline, because what are you going to do? Braun rebuilding the monster? I don't understand that. It makes no sense. So that'll be difficult. So the only two storylines that come out of it that really are worth anything is Brock winning the title and what that's going to mean, and Shane becoming the best in the world. I mean, that's really it. We'll see. Razor Roberts, who do you think would win an MMA fight, Bobby Lashley or Brock? I think Bobby might surprise people. Oh, Bobby would kill Brock, I think, in a fight. I do. Mainly because he has more experience. He's got more experience than Brock. I think he's more comfortable fighting in his body. You'll notice when Bobby Lashley goes and fights in MMA, he basically looks the exact same. He doesn't have to really suppress his muscle definition or anything like that. Brock goes through a complete transformation. He gets so thin and leaned out when he goes to UFC because he has to. I think Bobby's way more comfortable in his body, and I think if they put something together and gave us like a 6-month build, I think it would be a better situation for Bobby to win in an MMA fight. I think he would kill him. I think he would. Supervising Storm, you can even see it at locations Impact and taping their shows. How many people are in there and watch it? 50 at best. Yeah, I know it's really sad. And I'm not an Impact guy. I never have been. But this is pretty fucking sad, kids. It's pretty sad. Leaping Lizard, anyone else distracted over how excited the Warriors looking behind Dave? Yeah, I know. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Razor Roberts, yeah, Bobby is very clean. I'm guessing from his Army days that he learned to do it all clean. Yep. I personally thought Ray would have taken it all the way. That stupid bullshit happened. I don't feel as though Ray will be there very long. Oh, he'll be in WWE for a long term. I think he'll be there. He'll probably end his career in WWE. There's really no reason for him to go back out anywhere else. He can do a lot of things within WWE, and I know that he's signed for at least the next year or so. So I think he might even sign longer than that, but I can't remember. So, all right, that's basically all the big things I wanted to hit. How everything is just coming up Lesnar, man. My God, we've already done over an hour. I'm going to talk about this real quick, a little bit of NFL talk, and I'm going to go to calls. So now is the time to get into waiting to call in Discord. Come talk to me. Come get your questions, comments, concerns, hopes, dreams, quips, quotes, likes, loves, and so much more. Here's the link. I'll even put it in the chat for you. Look at that. It's also down below if you want to go click it there. Feel free. Get in the waiting call. I'm going to take some calls. Last thing I want to talk about, with all of the slamming and punching and takedowns and beat-ups, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about one of the biggest beatdowns of the weekend. Sportsbooks. Sportsbooks took a beating this weekend due to the NFL. Week 9 in the NFL, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I do a weekly NFL show with my brethren over at SC_radio on Twitch, my soul-crushing radio teammates, my fam, one of the best podcasts out right now, Soul Crushing Radio. Go check it out. Links down below. Same thing with the Twitch channel. Go check it out. I do the weekly football show. So we were talking about everything that was going on with the NFL this week. Absolute insanity. It looked like a really crazy week of games. Some of the point spreads were a little bit wonky. Some of the games it just seemed like a really good week for bettors, and it certainly fucking was. The Nevada industry estimated that the sports books in Nevada lost in the range of $7 to $10 million over the weekend on Sunday alone. And Atlanta and some of the other places, Atlantic City and some other places are saying even more. They just had a catastrophic weekend. And this happens every year. It happens every so often, and those type of things go down and all that. But this was really, really bad for them. And because of how much they took bettors early in the year, nobody's really, really complaining all that much. But it's pretty crazy. You just had a whole lot of situations where the end of the night is where everything kind of catapulted and went into this rocket ship, with New Orleans beating the Rams, the big upset of the weekend, even though some people wouldn't call it an upset. In fact, I called it last weekend that New Orleans would beat the Rams, even though I ended up picking the Rams this weekend just to be contrarian. New England covering the spread against Green Bay. These were huge damage done to Nevada, and I just think it's kind of funny that every so often you get these big swings in sports books. You get these big swings in parlays, and apparently a lot of parlay cards are what did the damage in Nevada this week. So I find that pretty interesting. It's something I want to talk about because the biggest KO, the biggest knockout, and the biggest purse won may have been by the fans this weekend, with all the things that happened with Saudi Arabia, with UFC, with all of these things. By the way, how about Weidman getting knocked out again? Holy fuck. That was crazy. In hometown, Weidman cannot fight in New York. Holy shit. He got fucking beaten up again. Good Lord. Craziness. All right. Good stuff. Let's go ahead. Danny 310. Lesnar winning the title is disrespectful towards Roman. Can't get there, Danny. Can't get there, buddy. I can't agree with you on that. But okie dokie. No problem. Let's go and get some calls, and then we're going to get out of here. Start with Bear, who's been waiting the entire show, and he better have something good. You better have something good. If you fucking bother me, I'm going to beat you up. What do you want, Bear? You're live with Dead on Dave.
I'll try not to bother you.
Okay,
I'll
good.
do my best.
Good.
I love you.
I love you.
Okay,
All right.
so you were right. I was wrong about the Rams.
Yeah, I typically am.
You were right, and I was wrong about Cleveland.
Yeah,
like,
typically
I think the Cleveland one was just me really wanting an upset, and because it was always fun.
It's okay. You're a mark. I get it. I no longer take wins or any happiness from when I'm right with you. I stopped that a long time ago. I get no special feelings. I just get exacerbation. That's it. Not masturbation.
I did win last night,
No, I'm glad you beat. Well, no, I'm not glad you beat Soul Crushing Radio. I think it's a crime against humanity. What happened that they lost to you? My God.
Julian Edelman happened. He threw
Julian Edelman throwing a touchdown is why you won. That's hilarious.
He didn't throw the touchdown. I don't think
whatever happened. I don't know what the fuck. It's ridiculous.
It was still good.
Ridiculous.
But
what do you want, Bear? What do you want from me?
First, I just want to say something about Bobby Lashley as a fighter.
Yeah.
When he was just doing MMA, I remember my friend was trying to get into MMA. Like he was doing fine, and he had a couple fights, and they said, if you win your next fight, like he might have to fight Bobby Lashley.
Did your friend take a shit? Did he shit himself?
No, he didn't do it. He left. He quit.
He quit?
He didn't want to do it. He was like, no. He's like twice. Like Lane is like 3 times the size. He's almost about as big as you.
But what about the money?
Muscle.
But what about? I mean, Jesus Christ.
He was like, he saw some of his fights. He saw a couple of Bobby's fights that were really one-sided and kind of violent.
Oh man.
And he was new to it. Yeah.
See, I'm 35 years old, and I've got a really good case of the fear in me. Like, it's the main reason why I probably will never try to fight. But I had a little bit of a combat sports career. I had a few things that I did when I was younger. And if the money was right, I'd fight Bobby Lashley right now. Yeah, I'd fight him.
It wasn't really that much money, because it was just a thing in Amarillo, Texas. Like, Bobby was...
Oh, there wouldn't have been much money in there for him.
No, with the 2 fights he did have, he made like $65.
Bobby made $65 or your friend?
No, Lane, my friend.
Oh, there would have been more money in it for being a victim of Bobby Lashley, though, is my point. It would.
You think?
Oh, yeah. I guarantee they had to pay those people a little bit more.
Beat down?
By Bobby Lashley, more than likely. You know, I guarantee Heath Herring made the most money of his career when he fought fucking Brock Lesnar. You know, it helps out. When you're fighting that type of name, you know, pay scale does tend to go out the window most of the time, or at least you get up there a little bit more, depending on what organization. It's just, it's crazy. That's why you can never believe anything the UFC tells you, because the pay scale there is all fucking wonky. Now you get paid from like 3 separate spots. It's weird. The whole fucking thing is just insane.
I just remember him saying he would fight Bobby Lashley, and I was like, wait, say that again?
I would have done it. I would have.
He said that, and I showed him a picture of Bobby Lashley, and he was like, oh. And then we watched a couple videos, and he was just like...
So he didn't even fight his next fight? Like, he had to fight another fight to even... Well,
that fight was in, like, 3 months, so he had, like, it was...
Just the idea of fighting Bobby Lashley was enough to go, I'm retiring?
Well, he would have won that fight. He would have won the next fight. So he was going to have to fight Bobby.
Fuck it, I retire. That's funny.
I ain't doing it. He just didn't want to get beat down.
All right, aside from making fun of your friend, what else he got?
Okay, with Shane, I think I said it on your last Twitch stream, that there was something someone said, I don't remember where it was, that it was not exactly what everyone's thinking, that it was an orchestration by The Miz and Shane McMahon for The Miz to fake an injury and have the fresh guy go in and bring the trophy to SmackDown.
That's so stupid, though.
It is.
Because that fresh guy, and like, if that does end up being the storyline, it's literally the worst storyline that wrestling's ever told.
It is, but I have a bad feeling that might be where they're going.
No, I think that they have alluded to Shane going heel for a while. And here's why I think that that's wrong. And I base it off nothing more than this. You know how I come to conclusions sometimes. Sometimes it only takes me a little bit. With the Miz thing, first off, they made it way too obvious for him to be faking an injury for him to actually go out and fake an injury. It was just that bad. Your boy looked awful. I'm sorry. That was the worst fake job of all time. So if they want to save his acting credibility, okay, sure, I guess they just say, I was trying to fake, but still, that takes a lot of explanation, and it's very stupid. The biggest thing for me of why I think this is bigger, and it leads to the inevitable evil Shane McMahon storyline that I think everybody was expecting to get at some point. It was the t-shirt. The black Muscle and Fitness fucking wife beater that he wore. That to me, because that might have been the exact same shirt that Vince wore on the cover of Muscle and Fitness.
It might be.
It might have actually been that specific shirt. That told me everything. And Shane looked more jacked than he typically did. Shane looked fucking ripped in some of those pictures. He almost looked like his old man at some points. So
when he was holding the trophy backstage.
Yeah. I think that's where it's going. Yeah. I think it's where it's going, and it's going to work. That's the thing. It's going to work. If they get the right opponent, if they can find that Stone Cold for Shane on SmackDown, and I don't know who it's going to be, by the way.
Who could that even be?
Couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you.
Maybe?
Joe going face? Joe going face never works.
I know.
AJ can't do it.
No.
I don't know.
Can't be Daniel Bryan.
Daniel? Yeah, it might be.
Could.
God, that doesn't sound very good, though, to me.
It has to be someone who's not on SmackDown. Maybe someone in NXT.
Maybe coming over. Yeah, maybe someone coming up from NXT.
Johnny?
Velveteen Dream, perhaps.
Oh.
Yeah. Maybe Velveteen Dream. I kind of like that, too.
Maybe.
Johnny, maybe, but Johnny's going evil anyway. Ricochet makes sense. But he's small, so maybe not. I don't know. It's Drew. I would love Drew Razor Roberts, but Drew's a heel. And if they fuck with what Drew's doing right now, that's a problem. Because Drew is wonderful.
Yeah. He's one of the best parts of Brawl right now.
I don't know. It's a tough one for me. I think they may have painted themselves into a corner. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes, though. And Johnny doesn't work for another reason, too. It looks like they might be going to some sort of reconciliation between him and the Blackheart.
Yeah, we're going to get DIY.
Evil DIY.
That would be fun.
DIY, D. Do it yourself, dickheads. You know, that'll be the new team name. That'll be fucking amazing. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Oh, God. Dude, them working as heels would be...
Could be fun.
so fun.
But I don't.
We saw them working together as babyface.
I don't want to see a tag team though.
Heroes.
I don't want to see a tag team again though. I really don't. Ciampa to me has elevated. He is there.
Ciampa is one of the best heels in wrestling. Right
No, I think you used the wrong word. Ciampa is the best heel in wrestling. Ciampa's incredible, man. He really is. He is phenomenal at what he does.
Do you think they'll put him on 205 Live?
More than likely. As sad as that is, the way 205 has worked lately, and it has worked quite well. You put him there, and he can do a lot of things. You could try putting him on the main roster, but again, where do you put him? You don't get him lost in Raw, so the obvious move is SmackDown, but nobody's working on SmackDown, so I don't know. It's a hard one.
That's true. The only one who actually is a draw on SmackDown is AJ.
Yeah,
right now.
That's true. All right, Bear, I appreciate the call, bud. You got anything else? Been live for an hour and 15 minutes, and I still got to go to Twitch.
I was so close to being right about the Miz. I know you love it deep down that Shane won because it means.
I don't know. I wish Miz would have won. I wish it would have been the Miz. I would take you being right than that fucking tomfuckery that we got, because it was just poorly done. I don't like poorly done. I don't mind crazy decisions. I mind bad execution. So that was my issue. All right, bud. I appreciate it, man. Have yourself a good day, and I'll see you on Twitch later.
Okay.
All right,
you
bud.
too. Love you.
Oh, God. Yes, love you too. Jesus Christ. Yes, I'll be on Twitch in just a little bit, probably an hour or so from now. I'm going to go outside, walk around a little bit, take care of a couple things, and then I'm going to come back here and get on that Twitch machine. We're starting with Red Dead 2. We're also going to open with a beer chug because of the donation from Ricochet. So thank you again, Ricochet. I appreciate that. We did one beer chug on this show. We'll do another one to open up the Twitch stream and all that good stuff. All right? Relapse. Thoughts on Dolph? I love Dolph. Dolph was always going to be at that glass ceiling because he's not that good as far as character goes, even though I will say this current iteration of Dolph Ziggler is the best and most connectable version that we've ever gotten of Dolph, and I do like that. Once again, big love to the creator of today's frame, which of course was Mystic. She wanted to take her shot at making a frame, so I decided to let her go ahead and do so. I think she did a very good job. Gave me a desk looking quite spiffy, right, and I added a couple little accoutrements with Randy Orton and the Ultimate Warrior in there as well. So pretty happy about that. We also have Vega's graphic that we're going to be using. I'm just going to kind of vary stuff out. We're still going to use GunCannons as well, and we're just going to kind of keep things fresh here so nothing ever gets too stale or too stagnant. Do appreciate everybody being here. Delton Clark, Becky versus Ronda. Ronda probably squashed Becky, but I like Becky, so I hope not. Oh, they're not going to squash Becky. Becky's money right now, and they've realized that. They've realized Becky is the money. Don't get that twisted. Thank you guys very much for being here. We had a fun time talking about everything that we got into. We talked about the glory days right now of Brock Lesnar. We got into Mayweather's next weird fight. Talked Daniel Cormier being an overrated tub of dough, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Hopefully you enjoyed everything. We had a lot of fun talking about it, and we'll keep it copious on the next one. More than likely, it'll be another Morning Slam tomorrow. We're going to recap the more than likely very crap-ass Raw tonight. It's the Overseas Tour. It's always awful. We'll see how it goes. And we'll be there tomorrow morning, more than likely, covering. If not, it'll be a Dead on Dave live in the afternoon, and it'll be an earlier Twitch stream. Just depends. You're going to get 2 shows a day. You're either going to get a Morning Slam in the morning and then a Twitch stream in the mid-afternoon, or you're going to get a Twitch stream in the morning and a Dead on Dave live in the afternoon. One or the other, okay? So there you go. Thank you very much for hanging out. We will see you next time. Keep it copious, folks. And remember, as always, if you don't have talent, have talented friends like all these wonderful people who continue to support through Patreon. Give some love, show some support, tweet out the stream, drop a like, and never forget to have my copious nuts gargled nice and gently in your mouths. Next time, folks, Twitch, later, Red Dead Redemption 2. Peace.